Hey guys, Ty Lord here with my weekly physical media pickups. These are all DVDs and Blu-rays. And I've watched every single one of these movies, so I'm going to have a short review on all of them. They're all fresh in my mind. I'm pumped about them, so it might drag on. I might start rambling a bit. And I'm sorry, they're all action movies, mostly action martial art movies, a lot of them from the 90s. I'm sorry. If you guys aren't into that, go away and come back next week. I might have something different. I've been off of work recovering from the surgery, so most of the time I'm either walking or watching these in the bedroom on my recliner, and it's taken me back to my youth watching these things. First one I got off of Whatnot, and that is the Go-Go Boys, the story of the founders of Canon Films, the two cousins. It's Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus. Israeli filmmakers, producers that were successful in Israel, came over to the United States in the 80s to found a big production company. Mostly these awesome schlocky movies I like. This is a story of them, their uprise and their downfall. Really interesting story. You see little interviews from Jean-Claude Van Damme is in here, and Michael Dudikoff. Kind of interesting story. Their rise and fall. It's kind of sad at the end. Seeing it like especially old Golan, like he really bit off way more than he could chew. Like he was just the other guy couldn't keep up with it. His poor cousin Globus. But but they were like a winning combination for many years. Very successful. Highly recommend this if you haven't seen it. The documentary on these two Israeli producers that came over and founded Canon Films. I've watched this, so I don't usually rewatch the documentary, so I'll probably send this over to Physical Media Mac. But excellent watch. Okay, the rest of them are all action movies. We'll start off with speaking of a producer, a producer duo. Another one I liked from the 90s was Richard Pepin and Joseph Merhi, that did a lot of B movies, but kind of the highest level B movies, straight to video action movies, PM Entertainment. I like a lot of those movies. That's like some of the first time I saw like Don the Dragon Wilson, or a lot of those guys. A lot of those action movies, like there's a lot of good Sam Jones action movies. Usually they take place in Vegas a lot of the time. Anyway, here's one I never seen, The Sword of Honor, with Stephen Vincent Lee. This guy here, handsome dude. He's got like the perfect physique. He's kind of tall. He's got white teeth, tanned. He kind of reminds me of like an Asian Rick Martel, and he's kind of a cocky guy but likable. In this movie, it's I don't know if you're not into the PM Entertainment movies. He was in To Be the Best with Martin Kove and Michael Worth, but he was sort of like the main antagonist, or one of them, in that movie. And Deadly Bet with Jeff Wincott. He was the bad guy. He was really cool in that. But this one, he's the hero. From looking at the cover, you'd think it was a samurai movie, but it's about this ancient sword that's supposed to make you immortal, and it's being auctioned off. And and anyway, all these rich people are going to bid on it, and I can't remember if someone wins the auction or whatever, but it's still at the museum, and there's a heist. These ninjas and robbers go into the bank to steal it. So Stephen Vincent Lee and his partner, who was played by Jeff Pruitt, who was like a martial arts guy too, he runs a martial arts school, and he's about to retire. So of course, you know who's gonna die. So him and his partner go to this robbery, and the bad guys end up, there's big fights and shootouts, martial arts, a lot of good martial arts in this movie. They end up getting partner ends up getting killed, and the bad guys get the sword. So this guy's on the case, and he wants revenge. Typical. And then he teams up with his partner's sister, ran the karate school, and it's a really hot blonde, like really legit martial artist too. Her name is Sophia Crawford, and she has like an English accent, and she's blonde, and she has like a banging body, just like old Stephen Vincent Lee himself. And they sort of team up. It sort of becomes like a little buddy movie. And then of course they get it on. Yeah, but she's a pretty good actor too. You never see her in anything. I think she mostly does stunt work. And it says she's a legendary kickboxer on the back, European kickboxer. And I haven't really seen her in other movies. I may have seen her here and there, like little parts in like Don the Dragon Wilson movies, but this is like her biggest role. Anyway, but it goes on from there. They're trying to find the bad guys to get the sword. There's some sword fighting, and anyway, I don't know if it's the best movie I've seen, but I enjoyed it. Directed by Robert Typhy, and I see there's a lot of Typhys that works on this that were acting, so it must be like a family, or some brothers did this. Echo Bridge release. PM Entertainment. Yeah, I highly enjoyed that one. It was cool to see Stephen Vincent Lee as the main lead. Typical lead character in those type of movies. And then on to this one. Me and Jeff have been into these movies, texting back and forth about them. The Cyborg Cop series. This cover is very deceptive. Terminal Impact, which is actually Cyborg Cop 3, and Cyborg Soldier, which is actually Cyborg Cop 2. The Cyborg Cop 2 is directed by Sam Furstenberg. Like a lot of his movies, American Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, American Samurai. And this is up there too. This original Cyborg Cop 1, which I do not own. I wish I could get some of these on physical media over here. I need to get an all-region player. Yes, sir. Anyway, yeah, Cyborg Cop 2 is probably one of the best low-budget action movies you'll ever see. Sort of like inspired by Universal Soldier and the Terminator. It's got David Bradley. He's probably like the toughest lead character you'll ever see. Like, he's got his motorcycle, he's got the leather jacket and a fanny pack on top of that, but he's just destroying everyone that touches him. Like, the cops are trying to beat him up, he just tears them all up. The FBI, even cyborgs, he gets the best of cyborgs in this movie. It's about a group of rogue cyborgs that escape the lab. They're being made to become weapons of war, and they escape, and they have their own agenda. They want to have a cyborg revolution, and the main cyborg is totally good character. He teams up with like the CEO of this company, or no, she's an investigator, and she's with the FBI or whatever. He teams up with this cute girl. A really epic showdown. There was a big epic showdown at a service station. A lot of blowing up and shooting. Really cool movie. David Bradley's character's name is Jack Ryan. Isn't that the same as the? Is that the Michael Crichton character? No. What's his? Tom Clancy, isn't that Harrison Ford and all that? Isn't that Jack Ryan? But this guy's name is anyway. And then Cyborg Cop 3 Terminal Impact's like a buddy movie, really awesome. It's got Brian Genesi or Janice. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's in a lot of movies I like. He's like a really cocky dude in this. Then his partner is old. What's his name? Zagarino. Frank Zagarino is his partner. They've been in a few movies together. It's like a buddy. They're like buddy cops, and they're trying to bring down these cyborg people. The universities kidnapping students or athletes and turning them into killer cyborgs. So typical plot from this type of movie. There's all kinds of car chases and stuff blowing up and shooting. I thought it would have been a step down from this, but it's not much more of a step down. And that one is directed by Yossi Wien or Wien. I don't know if that's a German name or what. But anyway, I recommend those two. On to a Film One movie directed by Jalal Merhi, the star of the Tiger Claws movies. He directs this, probably the producer too. Cold Vengeance with Brian Ganese here. Again, speaking of Brian Ganese, the main guy's name is Josh Barker. I haven't really seen him in any other movies, but he's pretty good in this. And then there's also an appearance, Darren Shalavi, the martial arts guy. He's in that. So when I saw this, I was hyped. I thought Brian Ganese and Darren Shalavi would have a fight, and they don't. But there are a couple of good fights at the end. It's about this guy's he's a criminal, like he's an arsonist, or he blows up properties for the mob, or he kills, and he has a team working for him. Brian Ganese's one of them, and he wants to go clean, but he keeps getting sucked back in, and he's like a tough guy. But they're gonna blow up this ice skating rink, like an ice skating arena. It's probably in the Toronto area. But he meets this girl that's an ice skate instructor, and he kind of falls in love with her. So he doesn't want to do the job, so he's trying to get out of it. So in the meantime, the guys hire him, go and get Darren Shalavi. I always have a hard time with his name. They go get him and his thugs to do it. So then at the end, there's a big showdown between them. They're trying to prevent the place from going up in smoke. Probably the highlight, there's not much fighting. Brian Ganese does a neck breaker, like Ravishing Rick Rude. He does that in the movie, so I thought that was the highlight of the movie. But probably the best part was the little romance. I'm usually more into the action, but it was actually kind of cute and charming. Like, this guy's like a real tough guy, and you wouldn't expect him to be bad with the ladies, but he's like really shy around this girl, and it's hard for him to get courage. It was kind of a weird like scenario in the middle of the movie. Like, he really wants to be with this girl, but he's kind of like, all he does is criminal stuff, so he's kind of bad with women, but she really digs him too. So I thought it was kind of cute. Am I losing my testosterone? Heck no. Speaking of Darren Shalavi, here's, oh man, I didn't watch this one. This is the retelling of Kickboxer, the original with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, I'm not saying this is better in any means, but this is way better than anyone's made it out to be. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I put this thing off because everyone talked crap about it. And this is from like 2015-ish. I don't know, but it's a retelling of that. The Sloan brothers. This guy's like one of my new favorites, Alain Moussi. He plays Kurt Sloan in this, the character Jean-Claude Van Damme played in the original. So it's like a different take on that movie. It's a lot different, but similar in some regards. But his brother Eric he actually gets killed at the beginning instead of getting his back broke, and it's played by Darren Shalavi again, and this is his last role. I think the poor guy died. Like, he was still young and like really athletic. Like, he could have gone on to do more very cool movies, and he really charismatic, like a good actor too, like tall, handsome dude. He dies in the movie, and he died in real life shortly after. But Tong Po, played by old Batista himself, and of course I prefer Michelle Kesey as Tong Po, but this is a different take on him. He's really way more imposing, like physically, really big, scary guy. George St. Pierre has a little role in it. I assumed he would be one of the one of the Sloan brothers, but he's another character. The lovely Gina Carano's in it. I was hoping she'd have a bigger role. I hope I would at least get to see her fight or see some more skin from her. No, just kidding. But she has a good little role in here. She's kind of a villain type character. And then Jean-Claude Van Damme is the instructor. He's the teacher. What's the teacher's name? Well, he's the master. I don't remember if he plays the same character as the original one. Where is he? Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is so there's like training montages. This is a newer movie, but there's like kind of like throwback like training montages, really cool stuff. This guy gets his butt kicked. He originally goes to kill Tong Po. Like, he goes to his training school with a gun. He's gonna kill him, but he gets captured and sent to prison. But then he falls in love with like this cop over there, really cute girl. What's her name? She's in the second one too. His love interest. There's a little love scene in there, which is not common in new movies. This is a manly movie. So I freaking love this movie for a new movie. Yeah, the last fight with Tong Po at the end's epic. After all of his training, there was all kinds of little cameos from mixed martial artists in here. Like I saw, what's his name that just got in trouble? Cain Vasquez, is that his name? Yeah, Cain Velasquez. I saw him in here. George St. Pierre. There's a few others I saw in here. Yeah, this is a cool movie. There was even the last fight scene at the end where they dunked their hands in the turpentine and then the glass. You remember that was parodied in Hot Shots 2 and that one. Charlie Sheen put his hands in the peanut butter and then in the M&Ms and the gummy bears, and he fought with actually James Liu was the guy he fought in that. Hey, speaking of James Liu, I watched, I think courtesy of my buddy Mario from the Retro Wave, Retro T-Bron, he sent me Shira, the Vampire Samurai, and that has a small part by James Liu in there. You've seen James Liu in like every single martial art movie. He plays a little part or he does a stunt or a thug or something. He has a few like big roles, but most of the time he has like a non-speaking role. But in this one, he's probably the biggest name in this movie. This movie is freaking really amateur. I'm not trashing it. Like, it looks like a fun movie to make. It looks like the budget's really freaking low. It's amazing. Like, they have some good martial artists in here, some good fighting, some good like old armor, like the costumes and stuff. There's vampires. This girl's a half human, half vampire that's lived throughout the years, like Highlander. And all of her love interests always die, so she's always depressed, and she's got the fake contacts and the fake teeth, and the acting in here is pretty hilarious. And the lighting, like you can tell in the nighttime scenes, they just have that blue filter on, and it's obviously daytime, but they have that blue filter on to make it look nighttime. But I mean, the fighting in here is pretty good. It's kind of entertaining. It's a fun movie, and it was directed by Jeff Cintari, and I don't really recognize anyone else in here. I have seen Shira herself. I think it was in that movie with Richard Lynch. Is it called Dragon Fury? But she's attractive. I think she's like in her 40s, but she looks like a young woman. She's super attractive. She gets naked. She does like a strip dance. She's doing samurai moves, killing people. So I don't know if I can recommend this or not. It's something, if you like corny, low budget movies, I kind of like it to see. 2007 it was made. I kind of like, you can tell like some people had fun making that. Speaking of kind of lower budget independent ones, this one was really good. It really took itself serious. Fist to Fist. And I didn't know any of these people until I saw it. Gino King and Bill Duff. And Gino King is the hero, and he's a cool guy, like a cool lead. He's like a martial arts teacher, but he has a past. He was in a gang, and he was kind of a bad guy before, but he's cleaned up, and now he takes in orphans and he trains them in a karate school and gets them on the right path. But his old partner, played by this guy, and he's a really good villain. The actor's name is Bill Duff. In the movie, he's called Tokyo Joe, but he gets out of prison, and one of his old cohorts in crime, and he wants the martial arts school. I'm taking it back, or I'm going to burn it down. Gino Chang, his character's name is Ken. He has to. He goes, oh, we can do an underground fight tournament, and if you win, you get to keep the dojo or whatever. Typical stuff. Ken takes in this kid off the street, and it's kind of a cool little story. He takes in this kid, tries to rob him, tries to mug him, but he beats him up, and then he sort of takes it like, hey, come to my school. You can work there and get fed and sleep. So he takes in this young kid, and he's an orphan. His parents had been killed. It turns out back when Ken was in that gang, he's the one that killed his parents. So he's training this kid. So it has a cool little story to it. The fighting, typical stuff like his wife gets captured at the end, so they want him to throw the fights. I freaking love it. It looks like it's won all kinds of awards. It's a nice looking, low budget, independent movie. Gino King directs it too. I wanted to see more of his movies after watching this, but it looks like the only one he has is Fist to Fist 2. And I think I may have seen that at Rasputin, so I'm going to get that for show. Okay, going on to Kickboxer, the sequel, or the sequel to the remake, Kickboxer Retaliation. Dude, I freaking love this movie. I don't know why I put watching this off. People ask, okay, like, another thing about this one, his students went and trained like with real martial artists. Like they went to real martial arts school, and it almost looked like real footage of them getting trained by real like Brazilian jiu-jitsu and judo and Muay Thai instructors. Like it looked like real footage of actually training. And one of the trainers in here was Jean LaBelle, who just passed away. Judo Jean LaBelle. I think he was like almost 90 or in his 90s. But he was a legend in judo and wrestling and cinema, like one of the biggest stuntmen. He's probably been in more action movies than even James Liu over there. But he just passed away, old Jean LaBelle. And I always admired him because I was a judoka as a kid. Like that was my youth. I don't know about all of this fancy martial arts. I like watching it on TV, but I don't really know much about it. I was always just judo, which is more like wrestling and submission wrestling, a little bit of kickboxing, but mostly my youth was grappling. So, and this movie had a lot of it. And Jean LaBelle was in there, so he was always like a role model of mine, Jean LaBelle. And he just passed away. My granddad recently passed. My dad, Sean Connery. Who else? A lot of these old masculine males, that there's no one like that anymore, are gone now. So it's like all the testosterone is leaving the world. Until I saw this movie. Everyone asks, where are all these manly action movies like Stallone used to have? I'm not saying this is as good as those, but here's one right here, and everyone crapped on it. Like, this is a cool movie, like throwback to, it's modern, has a nice modern feel, but throwback to like Enter the Dragon, Bloodsport, Kickboxer sequel. Alan Mossey is back as Kurt Sloan. He's making this character even more legendary in this movie. He gets arrested for the killing of Tong Po in the last one, and he's in prison. A lot of it's a prison movie, and he gets a lot of training from Mike Tyson's in there. Mike Tyson said, "My fists are fast and furious," or something. But yeah, he beats the crap out of Kurt Sloan in this. And who else is in there? I noticed. Oh, yeah, it says Vanderlei Silva. If you blink, you'll miss some of these fighters in here. The bad guy in this that runs the show and the fight at the end is Christopher Lambert, and he's like as corny and over the top as ever. Van Damme is back as his trainer, and he's been blinded by Christopher Lambert, so they have a rivalry. There's actually a sword fight between Van Damme and Christopher Lambert. This bad guy here, this actor, dude, he's bigger than Vader. Like, he's the main bad guy. He's like 400 pounds, maybe 6'8" of muscle. Like he makes Vader look small, this guy. What is the guy's name? you probably have seen him in television shows. He's so freaking big. The only problem I have with him, like he's the perfect main villain. The guy is such an underdog at the end in the fight. This little guy compared to him. The only thing is this guy, his face looks too nice. Like, I don't know if I want to fight him or have a cuddle with him. Like, he's too cuddly. Like his body is so freaking scary, and he's genetically modified. So there's some weird. The last match in this movie is almost like WWF. Like, it's like a really good WWF match. It's so off the wall and silly. Like, it even goes further than WWF in craziness. Up to that point, of course, they capture his lady friend from the last one. He's trying to rescue her. There's a cool rescue scene, something out of Enter the Dragon. Christopher Lambert has these two hot women that are always like massaging him, and they turn out to be fighters. They fight with Kurt Sloan in a mirror maze, and they're just wearing like a little tiny underwear, like little G-strings and bras, but they're doing all this ninja stuff. They're fighting with Elaine or however you say his name. Man, there's fight. Oh, I forgot to mention the beginning of this movie is kind of like a dream sequence. It's on a train. Kurt Sloan's there with his beautiful wife, and they're dancing, and he's dressed up like James Bond, and she has like on a pretty gown, a pretty dress, and then all of a sudden they get attacked by thugs, and they capture her and take her away, and he's trying to rescue her. He's fighting all these thugs, and one of them's a female like ninja, and he's fighting with them on this train, and it goes up to the top of the train. It almost feels like a Daniel Craig James Bond movie, like. And then he like kicks him off the train, and his wife falls off, and then he falls off, and he lands in the water, and then it goes to slow motion, kind of like a James Bond movie, and then it goes to the opening titles. It's like a James Bond movie, and it shows footage from the original Kickboxer, like Van Damme fighting with Tong Po, and then it shows footage from the other movie. It's like a James Bond title sequence in a Kickboxer movie, so that really won me over. Yeah, and not only that, but he has some. Not only does he have a fight, like one-on-one matches, a lot of cool, like Jackie Chan type stuff where he's fighting multiple guys at once in this movie. This movie is epic. Modern movies. I'm sorry I never watch newer movies because this is fantastic. Okay, speaking of Kickboxer, I mentioned this one the other day. I watched it. I already talked about this one last week. American Kickboxer 1. I wanted to see more movies with John Barrett here, the star, and I remember there was one from my childhood, To the Death, with him, and I really wanted to rewatch it. It's been years. This movie really stuck with me, and it's got Michelle Kesey that plays Tong Po. Well, let me get to that in a minute. So I did not realize this movie here is a direct sequel to American Kickboxer 1 with Keith Vitale. There's one directed by Franz Nail, this really good kickboxing movie, one of the best kickboxings, like legit looking kickboxing movies. This is like a sequel to it, and it is bonkers. And I didn't realize it when I was a kid. Now I watched it, I understand. Like, he's John Barrett's the same character. It continues off right from the last one. Some of the actors have changed, but some of the actors are the same. This one's directed by Sanjeev Singh. And it's fantastic. Like, this movie really stuck with me, and now that I know it's a sequel to this, so I don't know, it's not called American Kickboxer 2 or American Kickboxer 1-2, but because there is an American Kickboxer 2, but it has nothing to do with this, and I do like that movie. Anyway, yeah, this movie, John Barrett, he plays a kickboxing champion, Ricky Quinn. He was called BJ Quinn in the previous movie, but he's the same guy. So he's going to retire, get out of kickboxing with his beautiful wife that he had in the other movie. It's played by a different actress. So he's retiring, but the character from the other movie, his name was Duran. I think that was his name. Oh, Denard. Denard was his name. He was like the real asshole bad guy that he fought at the end, like really good. He was like a South African guy. He had like an accent. He was a real a-hole, and you really wanted to see him get beat up at the end. He's not in this one. He's replaced by Michelle Kesey that plays Tong Po. So he takes over the role of Denard. and he's just as much of a big a-hole, like Quinn's gonna retire, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, like, you can't retire, I want to fight you, I want your belt. And then the same a-hole reporter is in there. The guy's Ted LaPlatte. He played the really a-hole reporter in the last movie. He's in this one too, but he's more likable. So anyway, he goes to Tong Po goes to his house and says, I'm gonna kill you. Like, he picks up a pitchfork. You gotta fight me before you retire. And then his wife comes out with a shotgun and she was, get off of my property. So then Michelle Kesey takes off in his motorcycle, and then he gets before that he gets an offer from this really sleazy guy named LeBrock, and he was played by this guy, what's his name, Robert Whitehead. He's like a really underrated actor. He always stuck with me as a kid. He's a really sleazy guy, and he runs these underground fights where the fighters, if they lose, he throws a rose out to the ring, and the referee kills them. So that's the To the Death. That's the name of the movie. He's trying to get him to join it. He says, no, I'm not doing it. And he's trying to get Denard to join too. But anyway, after the scuffle between Michelle Kesey and John Barrett, his wife gets in the car and it blows up. So he thinks it was Denard that did it. So he goes and tries to fight him, and he gets beat up and all this stuff. And then he gets put in jail for fighting. And then this guy's lady, the bad guy, LeBrock's lady, bails him out and says, come to Mr. LeBrock's house. He has a proposition. And so he takes him there and he says, okay, and you get to win all this money if you fight in my tournaments. And his lady really digs him, of course. So it goes on from there. They eventually catch Michelle Kesey, and they make them fight each other at the end to the death. And they eventually become buddies. So like a character that was really hateable in the first movie becomes likable. They actually kidnap the reporter too, because he's kind of trying to figure it out. And that guy kind of becomes a likable character. But there's a cool fight between him and Tong Po at the end. All kinds of fights before that too. He runs a gauntlet. He fights all these guys, and all these poor guys get killed every time. Really cool movie. And speaking of yeah, so it's nothing like American Kickboxer 2. The movie actually titled that had Dale Cook and that Evan Laurie, and I like that movie. It's like a buddy action movie. But speaking of Dale Apollo Cook, I got this one finally. I found it on eBay, and it's the only Dale Apollo Cook movie I haven't seen. It's from the 90s, directed by Tim Spring, and this is a really fun action martial art movie. Starts off, he's a kickboxer, of course. He's in the match, he's fighting this guy, and he accidentally kills him, and he wins the belt. And then the guy's brother like hates this guy. He wants to kill him, and that really messes with this guy, like that he killed someone. So I think he got out of kickboxing, and he's like a bum now or whatever. Anyway, there's this gang of drug dealers that kills his brother. So he comes back to town. Of course, his brother's in this gang, and he gets killed. So he comes back. He wants to kill the guy that killed his brother. So it turns out the detective on the job is old Ron Hall. I don't know if you ever seen Ron Hall, but a lot of times he's in Dale Cook movies. He's that kind of like an average looking black guy with like an average haircut, but man, he moves like freaking no one else. Like he moves like someone from like an old Hong Kong movie, but like it looks like he has impact, like force behind all of his kicks, and he moves so freaking fast. Anyway, that guy's the chief police, and he's trying to get the same guy down. Turns out that guy, the black guy, I think his name's Williams, played by Ron Hall, that's the guy, the brother of the guy he killed in the ring. So like he really hates this guy, and he doesn't know it's him. I don't know how he doesn't recognize him. But this guy infiltrates the gang, and the gang's leader is old, you see that guy, Nick Hill. you see him in a lot of movies, like martial art movies. He was in Fist of Iron, I think, with Michael Worth, and he was Daniel Bernhardt's buddy in Bloodsport 2. Ron Hall was in Bloodsport 2. That's maybe where you've seen Ron Hall. He had like on the Chinese outfit, and he did all the crazy moves. Like he was like the highlight of the movie. So he infiltrates this gang, and they make him go on missions with him, and go do deals with him. A lot of the drug deals they have looks like it's in front of the medieval times castle or something. Like, or it's an amusement park or something. But the end of this movie has a lot of action. Of course, Dale Cook and Ron Hall end up becoming buddies. So they've been in a couple other buddy movies together. The guy is the bad guy is pretty good. What's his name? Nick Hill. A lot of good fighting. He's like he usually kind of plays a goofy character. Dale Apollo Cook. In this one, he kind of plays it straight. Like he really seems more like a Don the Dragon Wilson type character in this. He's a real kickboxing champion, just like Don the Dragon Wilson. Kind of feels like that type of movie, but big showdown. Of course, there's a internal affair, and there's like a FBI or internal affairs agent, this hot lady that's in it too, and she falls in love with him, and she's at the end battling with him at the end. Good stuff. And speaking of Bloodsport 2, they had Ron Hall and Nick Hill over there. Here's the star of Bloodsport 2, Daniel Bernhardt, in Sheldon Lettich's Perfect Target. 2 targets in a row with those crazy cases. Perfect Target. This is a really good one. These are kind of low budget, but good. This thing's high budget. This is a high budget, like on the level of another Sheldon Lettich, who did Lionheart, to Only the Strong, and Double Impact, the Van Damme movies. This is like on that level. This is a good high budget movie about Daniel Bernhardt is some kind of special forces or intelligence guy, and Robert Englund and Brian Thompson are like his old partners, and they're trying to bring him back into a job to protect this fictional South American country's president from being assassinated. Like they wanted them to be the security. It's a really good movie. There's a little bit of martial arts, but mostly just a good action suspense thriller. If you watched it once, I don't know if it's like worth rewatching, because it's mostly about the plot. So I don't really find this movie very rewatchable, but it's really good. I would watching Daniel Bernhardt gets called back in to protect the president in a speech, and this president's like, he's like a good guy, like he actually has the people in mind. It's like one of those third world countries where there's only rich and poor. The separation of class is extreme, and the new president's like really wanting to look out for the people. And at first you think he's a douchebag, but it turns out like he's really has the people in mind. But anyway, I don't want to give away the plot. Something goes bad and the president dies, and they think that Daniel Bernhardt did it, so the whole country is after him. And they frame him and this government agent. They happen to be there, and they were kind of butted heads. They didn't like each other at first, but they became buddies, and they escape. Freddy Krueger is good in this, and Brian Thompson's good in it. The president's wife, Signora Presidente, I forget her name, but she's really good, the actress that plays her. And then they go meet up with Daniel Bernhardt's buddy is this guy. His name is Jim Perry. He's like a Latino guy, and he's really handsome, tall, buff guy. He's like the size of Daniel Bernhardt. Daniel Bernhardt kind of reminds me of a mixture of Olivier Gruner and Van Damme, but taller. His buddy, I can't remember the character's name. The one he butts head with, he's like a tall, handsome guy too. But anyway, they run away, and his sister happens to be part of a resistance. Of course, he falls in love with Daniel here, and she's gorgeous too. She kind of steals the show too. It's like she's a pretty good actress, this gal. I've never even seen her in anything else, but she plays like the leader of this little resistance group, and they all just have sticks and BB guns, and this guy goes, "Oh, you're going to die. You shouldn't go home. You do not fight. You can go home." But anyway, he ends up helping them and training them like to be badasses. And there's like cool little training montages. And he trains them, and they end up going to and raiding an armory and stealing all kinds of weapons. And then there's a big showdown at the end. Really high budget Sheldon Lettich movie though. Usually every movie I've seen Sheldon Lettich direct is good. Okay, I'm going to finish with probably my favorite movie I saw. What the heck, dude? This cover is deceptive. Ving Rhames and Wesley Snipes in Undisputed. Dude, this is a freaking good movie. It's a boxing movie. It's a prison movie, boxing movie, and it's like one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. It's directed by Walter Hill. You might know him. He hits it out of the park many times. He did The Warriors. 1978. He did Hard Times with Charles Bronson. I think that was in 75. He did Streets of Fire with Michael Pare and Willem Dafoe. I think he did the 48 Hours movies. But man, he knocked it out of the park again with this one, Undisputed. Dude, this is like one of the best freaking movies I've ever seen. I think it's from the early 2000s. And this cover is freaking deception. It's showing explosions and helicopters and then arms and men running. And the back says, "Forget triple X, guys. It's this butt kicker you've been waiting for." Like they're trying to make it out to be like an action, like an action movie, dude. It's a boxing movie. It's set in prison, dude. It's freaking good. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to spoil it. It's so good. So Wesley Snipes, there's this prison, and it has this big cage in the middle, and all the inmates and the guards and the warden are cool with having like boxing matches, like for competition, I think once every few weeks. So anyway, Wesley Snipes has been the champion of that for like years. Like no one can beat him. He's the champion in the prison. And none of this is televised. It's all hush hush, like no one knows about it. I don't even know if they should be doing this. Anyway, Ving Rhames plays a boxer, kind of similar to Mike Tyson, but this guy's a real egomaniac. He's kind of a likable. Like you kind of feel for him. He goes to prison for rape, and he claims he didn't rape her. It kind of reminds me of Mike Tyson. Like he claims he's innocent, and he goes to prison for like many years, and he's the champion of the world of boxing. Like he's the real heavyweight champion of the world of boxing. He goes to prison, like he has an attitude, like he thinks he's above the warden, he's above the guards, he's above all the other prisoners. Like no, and he can't, and he doesn't like this guy. Like he's not the champ. He's just some what's the word they use? Some bum. He's just some bum, and then in prison fights. Like I'm the real world's heavyweight champion. And then all the guys, like there's a big skinhead, like even bigger than Ving Rhames. He comes up and tries to give him attitude. He just knocks him out with one punch. Then like the black gang comes up, "Hey homie, come be part of us, man." And then he just beats the hell out of them too. And then his cellmate is Wes Studi from Geronimo and Last of the Mohicans. I always call him Sagat because he played Sagat in Street Fighter. He's like a really likable character. He's Ving Rhames' cellmate, so they become buddies. So he's kind of like the bad guy, but he's actually the good guy. Like you kind of don't know who to root for in this movie. This guy's way more likable, but he has a good story, Ving Rhames, and then he's trying to get out of, he wants to get out of prison, and the warden says, "Look, be on good behavior. You could get out in maybe 4 years, and you're 35. Maybe you could still become champion." But he's just like effing up everyone. So Peter Falk is in it. This has a huge cast. I don't know if this is his last role. Peter Falk from Columbo and Princess Bride. He's this mobster that runs the whole show in prison, and he's obsessed with boxing. That's why they have these boxing matches. Like he has his own big cell. He has his own henchman, like a contact that talks to the outside world. He's kind of going senile. And I don't want to give a lot of this movie away, dude. It's so good. And this guy's really likable. Like he killed someone for having an affair with his wife. That's why he's in prison. And he was like California champion and Golden Gloves champion before he went to prison. So he may have become champion and out of prison if he had gone, but he's been in prison for many years. He's kind of like a humble guy, and he just sticks to himself, and he builds castles out of toothpicks. But no one's touched him in prison. The whole prison wants to see these two fight, and the mob boss wants to see it happen, and he doesn't want to do it unless like this mob boss can pull strings to get his sentence shortened. Dude, this movie is freaking good. The little guy from Short Circuit is his corner man. You know, he was in Super Mario Brothers. What's his name? Fisher Stevens. He was in what do you call it? My Science Project. This has a huge cast. Michael Rooker's the head prison guard from Cliffhanger. Dude, a lot of training. Like these guys are trained. This guy thinks Wesley Snipes is nothing, but wait till you see the end. The last fight in this movie is freaking epic. You got to watch this movie. Freaking Undisputed. Like they're trying to make it look like it's some kind of like war or spy movie or something. It's not. It's a boxing movie set in prison. Dude, it's so good. Like probably up there with my top 5 Walter Hill movies. Excellent stuff. So those are my movies this week, guys. Sorry to bore you. I've been really liking these fighting movies. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys next week. Hit up. I'll probably bring it up in my next video, but I got this from Hardcore Graveyard's Whatnot page. So check out Whatnot Graveyard. He has great deals, great selection of toys, horror movies, wrestling movies, action movies, t-shirts, like wrestling t-shirts, horror movie t-shirts. If you get on Whatnot, get on Hardcore Graveyard for sure. And check out this guy's YouTube channel. Corey from Hardcore Graveyard, like the most underrated YouTube channel ever. You can't believe all of the interviews he's had. All these guys I've been talking about in these movies, he's probably had interviews with half of them. These action movie stars and directors, stuntmen. Always has pro wrestling related stuff. Pitbull #1 from WCW. He has a weekly show with him. They talk about wrestling. All kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff from Pitbull, who's been in WWF and WCW and all those places, or ECW and all those places. So check out Hardcore Graveyard on YouTube and Whatnot and Instagram or whatever. That's how I talk to him. And then my boy that sent me... I'll get to that next time. My boy that sent me Shira... Mario Retro Tiburon. Go check out his podcast, the Retro Wave podcast, if you don't mind. Good stuff. I like to listen to that on my walks. I listen to both those guys on my walks. I've been walking a lot after my heart surgery, walking several miles every day. But now I can drive again. I got my truck back, so I can go look for yard sales and stuff. I can drive again. All right, anyway, good talking to you guys. Sorry to drag that on. Less than an hour. Hooray for me.